Again, we'd like to welcome everybody as you're entering the room. I just want to go ahead and, as we're waiting for the professor to get his speaking invite, I'll go ahead and set the room rules. Again, you are in the room Afrofuturism, Web3, and NFTs, hashtag Black Voices in social media. Um, my name is Don G, designer Don G, and we're going to kind of go over the rules. We hope that everyone engages with the space. We will definitely have a Q&A, give everybody the opportunity that want to speak, the ability to do so. Okay, we see the professor as a speaker now. Give everybody the ability to do so. I just ask that we all be respectful. When it is your opportunity to speak, we ask that you try to keep it to about 2 to 2.5 minutes. We ask that there are no isms, no phobias, none of that. That we remain respectful, and we also amplify each other's message. Lastly, we ask that you follow everyone on the stage and in the room for that matter, because what we want to do is try to build our community around these specific topics as it relates to Black people and people of the diaspora. So we ask at this time that everyone retweet the room, make sure that Black Voices in social media is in the hashtag, and we will continue to follow and engage with your conversations. So with no further ado, we're going to go ahead and go across the stage and allow everyone to introduce themselves. So I'll go first really quick. My name is designer Don G. I come from the music world. I used to be an artist in the late 90s and got into artist management. And then I also went on to establish and form my apparel company, Harlem Denim, which is named after my two sons, Harlem and Denim. And then I'm currently the senior PR director at 135th Agency. And I do social media management for a creative startup called Matza. All right, I'll pass it on to you, Dartmouth.
Absolutely, I appreciate it. Good morning, everybody, or good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. My name is 𝗿𝗲𝗰𝗶𝗵. Some call me Kwame. I am from Ghana. We're based out here in California, close by San Diego. I'm an Afrofuturist, Afro-cosmic artist, and been in the Web3 space with my works for the past year, almost a year and a half now. And my background or accolades come from the film industry, working as a visual effects artist on DC and Marvel films like The Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, even SpongeBob, quite a bit of films. And now I'm just kind of bringing my skills that I brought from the industry into storytelling with our stories through Afrofuturism. I'm definitely glad to be here, and I appreciate the invitation, and looking forward to a great discussion here. And shout out to the faces that I see out there that I haven't had a chance to speak to in a while, and looking forward to chopping it up with you all.
All right, that's awesome, brother. We appreciate you being a part of the panel. All right, Afro Spirit Art.
Hey, yeah, good morning and good to be here. I go by Afro Spirit Art. My name is 𝗀𝗲𝗶𝗴. I'm from Ghana as well. Hello, can you hear me? Yes.
Yes, you're good.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. My mic wasn't working. Yeah, so I'm Afro Spirit Art. My name is 𝗀𝗲𝗃𝗵𝗃. I'm from Ghana. I'm a creative as well in a couple of different mediums. Speaking, poetry, physical traditional canvas art, and more recently into digital art, photography, and 3D in the NFT and crypto space. I came into art as a result of my exploration through spirituality and African history and African culture, from leaving Wall Street and going to seminary on that journey to find purpose, and finally landing in nature and natural wellness, which ultimately led me to art and the connection between art and spirituality and the African culture. So that's sort of what my work usually plays around, using art as a medium or as a healing tool for raising consciousness and taking back our minds. And I play with a lot of color and geometry, and usually play along the boundaries of the abstract and the real to reveal the blurred lines between the spiritual and the physical realm. So that's me in a nutshell. And as like I said, thank you for being here and looking forward to the conversation.
We appreciate you being here. Man, it's going to be an amazing conversation. All right, last but not least, Professor Walter D. Greason.
Thank you so much. It's so good to be here, and I appreciate your patience with me on the technical difficulties. I just wanted to let everybody know I'm a professor of history out in Minnesota, Minneapolis, St. Paul, at a place called Macalester College. I've been a hip hop scholar, published sci-fi writer, award-winning historian for like 30 years. the work I do. I guess the things that you've seen that I've been associated with, President Obama's the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, the response that came up with Spike Lee's Black Klansman after the Unite the Right rally, and I would say the biggest one is probably, you know, the reason why I'm here. I wrote a document called the Wakanda Syllabus back in 2016, based on 20 years of Black sci-fi work, and a lot of the elements in that showed up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe Black Panther that came out in 2018.
Man, that's fantastic. So we have a fantastic panel. We're going to dive right into our discussion. I'm going to open it up with kind of a three-part question, guys, and you can kind of pick apart and you know, answer one or two or all three if you like. So the question is, what is Afrofuturism, and what does it mean to you? How is Afrofuturism displayed creatively, and what are some distinct elements? Just jump in whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I always love this question in terms of how we can educate and project our own perspective of it. So the first part of the question, Afrofuturism, for me is really about ensuring that we're depicting ourselves and seeing ourselves in the future. And I like to use my art to present this in a way that you're highlighting how can I put it, the technological advances, the sci-fi, the dreaminess of the Afrocentric perspective, you know. And you asked how we put that into our art and some of the features in there. And so, using my art as example, I like to fuse a lot of what could be, you know, solar technology and nature. And the elements I add into my would be in when I'm sculpting and creating the characters that I have, I'm giving them some of the futuristic fashion, or, you know, some of the mechanical elements. So what many people have seen in the films, in terms of how it's been depicted. So, you know, sorry, I'm still gathering my thoughts here. But like Black Panther was introducing the world a lot into what some of Afrofuturism is, but however, you know, it goes into a lot broader scope. And so it's really, and just closing it out, is really just giving us access and the creative ability to put our own, you know, objectives and our ideas and how we see ourselves represented in the future with the technology, with the advances, and with just the way we continue to be part of society, but excelling in such an excellent way. And I'll yield to the next speaker. Thank you.
I appreciate that answer. All right, Afro
Yeah.
Spirit Art.
Yeah, what a beautiful answer. Yeah, for me, it has a lot of what Darkness said, and I would say Afrofuturism, like you said, is creating a future for us. You know, I think of it like FUBU, for us by us, and in the sense that it, for me personally, is like living and acting in the very present moment as a vessel to create a paradigm for the future. You know, that has its tenets in the deep wisdom, culture, and ingenuity of the rich African and Afrocentric and diasporic heritage across the globe. And in essence, it's about taking charge of our reality, our minds, our stories, and our actions to actively create a world for ourselves where we no longer strive, but we thrive. So building that reality, that future reality, in a way that heals us and uplifts us and provides limitless opportunity to grow, expand, and creatively push the limits of what's possible, you know, all in a balance, in harmonious balance. And with respect to how Afrofuturism is displayed creatively, or what are some of the elements, I would say, at least in the making of the art, or like the different creative mediums, be it pictures or poetry or speaking or writing, it would be about making depictions or creations that display our images, our stories, our culture, heritage, languages, mannerisms, you know, all from our perspective and those of our ancestors who gave us lives. And in terms of elements, I would say it having some essence that uplifts, heals, and provides life to the culture and the consciousness and supports its growth, you know, both consciousness wise, mentally, and also financially and technologically. So that's how I think about it. Thank you. And I yield.
Okay, Professor Reason.
Perfect. Yo, those were brilliant contributions. And so I wanted to start kind of with some concrete bits real quick about how, like, over the last 150 years going back, we have a lot of points of reference that explain this. But for me, 100 years ago, people didn't believe there was anything that was real about Black history. People thought that, like, Africa, the diaspora, Black people had literally no past, nothing worthy that they ever accomplished. And we've spent a century disproving that myth. And so through all the transformations of the Harlem Renaissance, the Black Power movement, the Marcus Garvey movement, we have stood up repeatedly and demonstrated how we are reinventing both the discovery of our past, but then also the creation of our future. And so Afrofuturism is a simple way to make reference to that. But I work with a lot of scholars who really use much more precise language, calling it the Black speculative arts movement, that this is the way Black people imagine themselves at all times, in all places. And yeah, technology has a big role in that. There's a big way that, like, digital technologies have played in, but, like, music and graphic arts are really the center of it. And so I think of folks like Miles Davis. I think of folks like Sonia Sanchez. I think of Earth, Wind and Fire, or Sun Ra, Outkast, Missy Elliott, Busta Rhymes. These people are all constantly reinventing how we imagine being Black anywhere, anytime. And, like, the way that our creativity is unbound. And so that to me is what we refer to when we're talking about Afrofuturism. My specialty is Black speculative science. And so I look a lot about coding. I look a lot about how we use VR, how we use social media. How are we using all of these new tools that have emerged to create new art forms, like what we saw on HBO with the Watchmen series, or with the Lovecraft Country stories? Like, we're actively saying Blackness is unlimited at any time, anywhere. And so that freedom to be ourselves, that fundamentally is what Black speculative art and science is.
I definitely appreciate your answer. So much richness in what we're saying, and that's really why I wanted to curate this conversation today. I'll give my 2 cents on what I think, in my own words, Afrofuturism for me. Um, I look at, like, how we see the world, and whenever we go out to do, whether it be transactions through, art and culture and science and things of that sake. But when we hear the word no, like, let's say if I go into a bank and I'm looking to, get a loan or something. When I hear the word no, or unfortunately we can't, um, how do we fit into, shifting the culture from doing business in such a way? And we'll get into this later in the conversation as we talk about finance, decentralization finance. But anytime I feel like we hear the word no, whether it be however we choose to live our lives, and how we do things, I think it's time for us to really tap into this Afrocentric, Afrofuturist mindset, where we can shift the culture and the way that we do things, tying our ancestors and the way that we've done things, or things were in the past, and how we envision things to be in the future. So hopefully that made sense. Just trying to get it out in my own words. I definitely don't want to read any. We have one other speaker, Crypto G NFTs. Luis, do you have anything you want to add? Okay, we will move on. We'll definitely bring him to the stage in the near future. Just want to reset the room really quick. We appreciate everyone joining us. Again, my name is Designer Don G. This is our second of our Twitter series that we've done. We ask that everyone, if you don't mind, follow everybody on the stage, retweet the room, and make sure that the hashtag Black Voices in social media is in your tweet. All right, guys. So we're going to move on to our second question of today, and it's kind of a two-part question. So how do you see Afrofuturism impacting our culture in the future, and how can a person benefit from Afrofuturistic ideals? Any one of the panelists wants to start?
I can jump in on that one. It was when I do my work in Black speculative science, the primary field is economics. And so a lot of work I've been doing in the last 2 years is helping people start small businesses, grow the investment in those businesses, create passive streams of income, basically guarantee that, like, their day-to-day life is much more comfortable, that they're much more resilient, despite the pandemic, despite whatever kind of political party is in charge, like, that they can take command of their day-to-day economic life and always have not just their basic needs met, but have a structure in a life that is lower stress, that is healthier, that they're able to kind of protect and care for all the people that they love in deeper ways. And so that building up economic structures takes a lot of different forms, but from cooperatives that provide food and shelter and clothing, medical care to people at low cost, all the way up through somebody who's already making 100 or 200 or $400,000 a year. How do they continue to grow those enterprises and get more people to join them? That's a lot of my work in Black speculative science. It's building a sustainable economy for Black people everywhere.
I appreciate that
Wow.
answer.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, I'll say, the same thing. And I wanted to add something on the other side of, mentally, in terms of how Afrofuturism impacting our culture in the future. I tend to think about it in terms of it healing and expanding our consciousness, both mental and financial wellness, ultimately for relative sovereignty or sovereignty, if it is possible in our time. And it's allowing us to strategically and actively curate and shape the minds of the people around us and the young ones yet to be born. We usually tend to have different issues in our communities or the communities we exist in, because most of the time we find ourselves in spaces that were not necessarily created by us or for us. And sometimes even if it was created by us, it wasn't created strategically with well-meaning and, the loving Afrocentric consciousness in the service of healing the mind for mental wellness and, for spatial and financial growth and the best conditions for us to thrive. So I think of it, Afrofuturism, in sort of taking charge of our reality in a way that can also bring unity in a way where the individuals can also thrive without compromising who they generally are, because the space or the consciousness or the paradigm allows for that level of awareness that shows that we are together in this and thrive together. So it's not like a win-lose dog eat dog mentality, but more like a win-win God feed God mentality, where we grow ourselves and grow each other, because it's limitless. It's a limitless mentality where we can all grow within that, and being able to create that mindset and that paradigm so that we can all win and support each other in that awareness of that unity and co-living and co-growth, allowing us to thrive. And for me, ultimately, it begins with and it usually goes around the healing of the mind and rerouting it and the consciousness in the deep wisdom of the ancestors who came before us. So whilst we're tapped into those roots, we have endless food to continue to thrive and bear fruit without limits. Because like professor said, like 100 years ago, they would talk about African history and say we have no history. But thanks to people like, Dr. Clark, William Chancellor, Dr. Ben, and other scholars, Marcus Garvey and all those people, now we've been able to tap into the depths of African, wisdom and history to re-understand ourselves, and ultimately having that self-love that can allow us to grow and push the boundaries beyond limits, because we are the creators of civilizations. So that's how I see Afrofuturism being able to impact our culture in the future.
Thank you for that, for sure. Dartmouth.
Yeah, I apologize. I had a bad rug, so I didn't get what the question was. Could you repeat it? Oh, can anybody hear me?
I can hear you. I think the question was, how do you see Afrofuturism impacting our culture in the future?
Yes,
Oh,
and second part of it is, how can a person benefit from Afrofuturistic ideals? Sorry, I was on mute.
okay, absolutely. So, for those of you that are in the spaces that may not know some of us or know us, we have pinned some of our artwork up, so please feel free to go up and check it out. And I brought that up because if you look at the first pinned tweet that I put up there, 𝗀𝗲𝗰𝗶, I pinned that up to just give you an example of my art depiction in Afrofuturism. And what I believe that this art does is it invites a community of anybody from any background to be curious about how we see ourselves or the perspectives of ourselves into the future. And this benefits us in ways by showing or by encapsulating the ideas of progression in a major way. The art, for example, showing the symbolism, like my piece is symbolizing the Afrofuturist that is standing on this big technological block. and it's a victory. You know, that's the symbolism I use. And with our Afrofuturism art, when we get into these spaces and we're able to talk about that, we're actually educating on the premise that we understand what is happening in technology and our communities not be left behind. And you know, and it's not only going to be in the art, specifically this art form. The technology, as we mentioned, behind it. We have an artist, 𝗍𝗲𝗃 from Ghana too, who's doing AR. We have many people in this world of society that sees Africa and the diaspora as lacking behind. With this Afrofuturism, we're proving so much wrong. We have people in this Afrofuturism community doing incredible things with technology, with AR, with VR. And it's because we're seeing the value of what is going to be happening in this future. So the African and the African diaspora that are in this technology, whether it's cryptocurrency, whether it's music, dance, fashion, visual arts, we're already bringing in the idea that we understand the technology and we're going to be ahead of the game with it. And so it's bringing a positive impact in society. And especially in the last part, and especially for the youth that come after us, because it's going to be us that tell our own story. Nobody else. There's nobody in this world that can tell what the African diaspora's future should be. We need to write it out. So we need to, as we're creating anything, the Web3 or engineering, we're setting that up for our upcoming generations who can then see what we were envisioning and they can make that magic happen. You know, even though we might not have the technology yet, the Afrofuturist is thinking about it. That seed or drop that pebble in the water to get that ripple effect where the youth that is sitting out there, whether they're in Ghana or America or whatnot, see that and say, oh, I saw what this Afrofuturist artist did and I have an idea. I think I know how to do that technology. And then they're in the STEM program making that happen. So that's what I think how powerful an impact with the
Okay.
with Afrofuturism.
You good? Is your connection okay?
Futurism is in all.
Okay.
Did I get rubbed again?
Yeah, I think your connection is kind of going out. We heard everything up until the last point.
Oh, it's to the last point. Oh, okay. I think I just wrapped it up by just saying, you know, everything that we are doing creatively, technologically, is going to be how we can set the future for our future generations who will see the work we're doing, reading it or interpreting what we're doing, and they'll be able to take the technology that is coming up after us and catapult us so that we're ahead and step of the game. Thank you.
Such a robust answer. We appreciate you guys being a part of what we're doing today. For those that are joining, we ask that everyone raise your hand if it's something that you want to add to the conversation. We definitely will get into the Q&A session shortly. We ask that everybody retweets the room. Make sure the hashtag Black Voices in social media is a part of your tweet. And feel free to follow everyone on the panel as well as others in the room. And we really do appreciate you guys joining us on this beautiful Saturday morning. All right, so to our final question, I will open it up to our panel and then open it up to the Q&A session. How do you see NFT and Web3 technology affecting the culture, and how can marginalized communities be positively impacted by Web3 technology as opposed to traditional finance and banking methods? So anyone can start from the panel.
Amazing question. Again, the impact and the technology in Web3 is real. You know, like I mentioned, 𝗍𝗲𝗃 down there, and who's doing AR technology with the work we're doing. And then, you know, we have 𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗵 art down there who spends a lot of time putting these documents together that he's learning in the space. And while many of you may not know some of these names, there are artists that are in here that are impacting it in such a major way that as we come together, we're able to develop in this Web3 space. Just doing the art, like me being an artist, I'm not just looking at it and saying, okay, I just want to create art that I can show you visually. I actually do want to spark the people thinking about how to materialize what they're thinking of. And again, we got Isaac, who's down in the space. Shout out, I've been talking to a bit. He's an Afrofuturist artist, but he actually brings the spiritual part into it. And we are a spiritual community. So now I'm looking and tying the dots with all the different elements of what is happening in the Web3. And so how we can pull up in this Web3 space is by having these spaces like this where we're coming together and talking about this information. I'm an artist, but we have the doctor here and a historian that I would come and learn from, because just because I'm an Afrofuturist artist, I'm not going to claim to say that I know everything that's going on out there. In fact, I'm depicting what I have from my perspective, but I also need to come in and learn from people that are looking at the thesis of it and the philosophy. I need to come and learn, like, what do you know that I had not had a chance to learn about? Because as I'm learning and you're inviting me to the philosophy, I can find a way to bring that into the Web3 space visually and have the question spark. And then have Jay Henny Art in there, like, okay, well, let's get our Afrofuturists together and have this documentation so we can onboard you really, much better and quicker. So yeah, that's how I really feel about this space and what we're doing here. And it's incredibly important that we keep this going on, consistently. And I'll wrap up my statement by just mentioning that when I curated the Afrofuturism for Portion app, getting 16 artists, we hit all areas from the visuals to the fashion and whatnot. And something magical happened. It brought so many people to the spaces where, from my end, I thought every Black person has heard of Afrofuturism, but I was wrong. It's not that they never heard of it. It's just it hadn't been standardized and put in the community for folks to understand. So they're coming in, they're like, wait, Afrofuturism. And now you just tapped into a different mindset somewhere. And I'm seeing artists starting to say, okay, this is what I do with my art, and this is how I can contribute to Afrofuturism. And they will come in spaces like this or hit the DM and say, but I'm a photographer. How do I make Afrofuturism art like that? It's coming to the spaces. We're starting to work together. I love this space you're doing. I do Afrofuturism on the blockchain. We all keep connecting. And then what we're doing is ensuring we are part of Web3 on the blockchain. And then we're reaching out and finally getting to see the people that have been shaping the Afrofuturism conversation in their literature and in their books, because this is the first time we're really seeing Afrofuturism in this visual aspect. So now we can start looking at the publishers and writers and saying, hey, the artists, visual artists, let's collaborate.
Okay, I'm sorry, I might have hit the mute button.
Oh no, that's okay. That's all right. But yeah, just saying that, we continue to collaborate, bring people that, the people that have been setting the stage for us, these authors and writers, the literature, finding a way to get them to meet with us, the artists that are in here, and say, well, this is what we're doing. And I see you out there. So yes, welcome to the blockchain. How you set the pace for us with your books, several years ago. This is what we're doing in the future. And we bridge the gap and we go from there. So yeah, love that question. And it's an important question. So thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Oh, that was brilliant. That was brilliant. And I got a couple concrete ways for us to make that happen right now. So whenever we're doing spaces like these, it's an opportunity for us to promote each other's work, to help, build new NFTs, to help to kind of make it so that we're creating new things in this time that we're able to share together. So it doesn't matter if you have a podcast or if you're graphic art or if you got a new website, you need to share all that right now so that all of us can tag in and actually promote it to each of our audiences. And even beyond that, I would say in 2 weeks, there's a giant Afrofuturism festival in New York City that's called, it's like Untime Space, or it's Time Zones and Unconference. And it's in Lower Manhattan. But there are events in Chicago, there are events in San Francisco, there are events in Memphis and Nashville, Tennessee. You want to get in with the network wherever it's local and convenient for you to get so you can plug into the community. I would say follow the hashtag Afrofuturism. There's a bunch of people that share through that. But I think particularly I'm going to shout out my man, Ronaldo Anderson, REYNALDO Anderson. We basically, his Twitter account is hardcore888. But he's running Temple University's Afrofuturism initiative that's hosting art and concerts at Carnegie Hall for the next couple months. And so getting into the network so that people can promote what you're doing, so they can learn from what you're bringing to the table, and that you can start making more cash and building a better life around this art. Like, it's literally billions and trillions of dollars that are represented in this form. So now's the time to take advantage of it through spaces like Black Voices and social media.
Appreciate it, Professor. That's a wealth of information, and I'm very glad that you're a part of our space today. All right, Afro Spirit.
Yeah. Okay,
sorry,
no, Darkness, go ahead. Yeah, and I'll
No,
come after you.
okay, because of what Doctor just said sparked something that I thought is very important. Our community in this Web3 and blockchain space is incredibly small, but it's growing. And I come from the background in the Web3 space of, community building, helping build Black NFT art, which is, incredibly big and out there supporting the diaspora and art from back in January. Then next was African NFT community, which is doing what they're doing. Several months ago, I was listening. I had been just watching and listening what's going on in the spaces. And it dawned on me that we have our Afrofuturist artists, but we did not know where each other were. And so it did is it ignited something where I thought, okay, I've understood how to do community building, but this is the space that I'm very incredibly passionate about. And so starting to do these spaces is finding a way to find our tribe people. And so what I wanted to mention is that, just like you said, we just need to retweet and share. I think at this point, as an Afrofuturism community, we need to really be able to come in and show up, because there's a lot of things going in the different spaces, but I understand how this community can grow into a platform and space that we're out front and center, because Afrofuturism is new to the community. It's going to be something that will excite people to explore. And Doctor, like, I'm listening to you about, the university and whatnot, and I'm thinking, wow, you're in the perfect place to plug with artists that are here. Say, hey, let's bring your art into this classroom and let's talk about it, And I think that's the beautiful thing. We can start to reach out, and these students are going to be exposed to what we're doing and say, oh, I want to do that. Or someone is going to say, I want to go and teach this. And I'm super interested in what you all are doing. And for the Carnegie Hall, yeah, big ups. I believe I have a piece in Carnegie too as well. And I think that this community can become stronger, and we can have big, large support like Carnegie or Portion App who's hooking us up, and we can become a voice and pillar of what is beginning in the space with Afrofuturism and starting to lead in the steps of that. So I just want to say, we just show up. We show up for each other, we build, and we become that Afrofuturism community of artists, creatives, teachers, and collaborate in any way that we can uplift each other and bind and become stronger. Thank you.
Appreciate it, brother. We're gonna pass it over to Afro Spirit.
Yeah, 100%. Everything that has been said has been so rich. Yeah, I think, when I think of NFT and Web3 and the spaces, for me, it's like it's crushed space and time. Here we are in different spaces in the world at different time zones, but we've all met here. Like Don, I lived in Harlem for 2.5 years. What are the chances that I would have met you? I didn't meet you in Harlem ever. Now I'm living in South America, and here we are having this conversation. Met Darkness, we talked about 𝗿𝗲𝗆 creating the AR app, and as Africans, at least for me, growing up, and a lot of things are whitewashed, so you don't get to see representation. So you don't realize what that does to your psyche till you begin to see you being represented in spaces and how much power and self-love it brings to you. So when I think of the NFT and Web3 technology, I think we're entering into a new paradigm, and it's providing an opportunity which can go either way, because I always want to also think about the realistic aspect of it, which is that if we don't get together and create the spaces and the kind of consciousness that we want to in these spaces, it will be created, and once again we would have to squeeze ourselves into a paradigm that doesn't necessarily take us into consideration. And this technology being able to affect the culture in a way that is providing a platform which is to a certain degree decentralized. So now you have the opportunity to own your own credentials, to be able to gain value for what you create. There's so many times, for example, people from the culture create so much and is taken by different big companies that don't give them their value back, and they have to go back and buy these at high prices and all of that. So the technology offering that opportunity, and the importance of us first of all, understanding the technology and tapping into the collective, consciousness and the unity of, the culture, because the culture is everywhere, from Africa to the diaspora to, all continents. And it's this technology sort of shrinking everything for us to be in a particular moment, in a particular time, that we have access to each other in a way where we can support each other, as like retweeting each other's works, liking each other's works, but also more importantly, collecting each other's works and being able to build that community within ourselves, buying black and having that circulation of money going through for us to be able to build. And from that, each person is empowered. So just, just the ability to now have things out in the open, and now us being able to, create our spaces is so crucial. And the educational aspect of it, I see that it's something that could change the whole game. And it's important for us to take advantage of that and get together in a unified way that embraces our differences, because for so long our differences have been used against us. I grew up in Ghana, and it took me living over 7 years in the US to really see my connections with my brothers and sisters in the diaspora. And it's hard to say the level of psychological warfare that's done to us on the continent, that you can't even explain how these things are working on you till you get to work your way out of it. So it's really important, the unity aspect. And I think the technology has provided a platform to make that possible. And it's all about us taking actionable items to, to build ourselves together by supporting each other. So that's how I think about it. Thank you.
I appreciate it. I was when I was putting this together, I was having a conversation with Afro Spirit Art, and he mentioned one thing that really jumped out at me, and he said his primary goal is reclaiming sovereignty for our people, and that really jumped out at me, and I wanted to make sure that was a part of the conversation today. Something I did mention earlier was about decentralized finance, and so I looked something up that I just want to share with everybody. So with traditional banking, let's just think about how, if you want to start a business, you go into a bank, you go through the process, and it's a very lengthy process, and there's so many middlemen when it comes to not only just banking, but anything that we're doing as it relates to reclaiming our sovereignty. So I just want to read a few things about traditional banking. So something I didn't know, it's actually said approximately 2 billion people around the world do not have access to bank accounts. And that really just blew my mind when I heard that. And another thing about traditional banking, money is held in a bank account and it is controlled by an institution. Transactions can take days to settle. Access to services such as lending and borrowing is restricted based on an individual's credit score, assuming they have one. Access to banking and investment services is restricted to certain times. So obviously the bank is open only, I don't know about banks where you are, but my bank is open for like from 9 a.m. to like 2 p.m. I don't even understand that. Access to banking and investment. Banking provides minimal interest rates for deposits, limiting customers' earning potential. So I just want to share some things about decentralized finance and where we're headed in the future. So DeFi applications are accessible by anyone with an internet connection. So if you think about anyone with a cell phone, the possibilities are limitless. Individuals retain complete control of their finances. Transactions can settle almost instantly. Individuals can earn, lend, and borrow assets as long as they have the necessary collateral. Decentralized finance applications are available 24/7, and DeFi applications provide much greater rates of return on deposits. So I just wanted to share that, and if you really think about how that can help us, go back to our subtitle, which is reclaiming sovereignty for our people. This is going to be the biggest way that we'll be in the wealth conversation and leveling the playing field. So with that being said, we are going to open it up for Q&A. Anyone that wants to join us on stage as a speaker, please raise your hand. I will bring you up. We ask that you try to keep your conversation to as close to about 2.5 minutes as possible. And we also ask that you retweet the room. Thank you guys for joining us. Anybody want to come up for Q&A? I'll also open it back up to our panelists as well.
Yeah, I feel like sovereignty is everything. I feel like it's a divine human right. But systems have been put in place that make it hard for a lot of people, and a lot of the time people who look like us. And like I said, the technology providing that platform, and ultimately the educational aspect of that technology being primal, so that you can own your stuff and actually know how to move it around to continue to build that level of sovereignty. And it's so crucial to me, because if that educational aspect doesn't happen, you will enter the space with a certain idea of what you think the space is. And before you know, you're caught in a new bubble, in a new world that wasn't created with you in mind, because an example is, you come into the NFT space and a lot of people think NFTs are just about JPEGs, but NFTs are non-fungible tokens, which have more functionality beyond just JPEGs than we're yet to see. So
Okay.
that just providing new doorways and new portals into being able to create what we've always envisioned, what the system has always made it difficult for us to have, what the centralized spaces like, the banks and stuff made it difficult for us, in communities, brothers getting institutionalized, making it hard for them to own bank accounts and all of that. This is going to change the game. So us learning about
Okay.
it, yeah, I think it's
Can
crucial.
let's go over to Lar, Lare. I think you were first.
Hello, yes, Larry.
Larry, sorry.
Oh, no problem. It's no problem. Hi, guys. My name is Larry, and I'm a visual artist, an Afrofuturist, and Afro-cosmic artist from Nigeria. And honestly, just been listening in on the space, and really nice to hear what everyone says. Because personally, from my side of the stuff, it's a lot of Black art and African art is centered around our struggle and life, but also I like the idea and the community built around just Black people and African art talking about the future and talking about possibilities and just extending the stories we tell beyond just the moment and what we've been through, and just the idea of exploring more of us. And it's nice to be in the space. It's nice to be in this community, and just I'm also trying to find out more people in the community, and just finding artists that care about the same things I do and are talking about the same things I am. So yeah, just wanted to come on here and say it's nice hearing everybody speak, Dark Mystic, Afro Spirit, and also the doc. Hello to everyone.
I appreciate that, Larry. We're gonna go over to Rendell.
Hey, how's it going, bro? You doing well?
Yes, sir.
Good, good. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, I know we just connected recently. I just left a session, so I haven't been here the whole space, but the little bits that I did hear, was pretty much up my street. About community. I'm relatively new, I would say, to NFTs. I've been into crypto from a learning standpoint for a few years, but I just put out one NFT with a song that I put out recently, which is I really just wanted to exercise a learning curve and just see if I could do it myself, which I did. But the whole things that you guys are saying about community, that's the one cool thing I do like about Web3 NFTs, is just that community aspect. I've written about this in previous books, the Black Algorithm, where you're talking about solving actual problems. And, I recently decided just to kind of really get back into my creative bag and really execute at that level, because some of these institutional options, they're just not really beneficial for a lot of Black people globally. I just sent you a DM with someone. I'll let you check that out in your own time. But again, that's all based off of community and group economics, full stop. And I think that's what this whole NFT and Web3 space essentially has at the heart of it, which I think is dope. But yeah, that's all I really wanted to say.
Appreciate that, brother. We're gonna go over to OXF, and then we're going to Kara, Renee after that.
Hey everyone, my name is Fidel. I'm a Ghanaian living in Philadelphia and working as a product designer. I'm also a creative. I just wanted to say the perspective you guys have shared on Afrofuturism has been extremely enlightening. At first, I used to think of it as a genre for books that, you could read and kind of create different fantasies about the future of Africa. But I'm starting to see that it's alive. It's something that's happening today and continues to happen every day. And the power of stories, the stories that we tell ourselves individually, nationally, globally, really define the kind of people that we are and the reality that we exist in. So I wanted to also ask this question about the technology. Since it's so new, a lot of our people aren't aware of its power and aren't even aware of the importance of, really telling your story. So what are some ways that we can make this more accessible and educate the people on why some of these traditions, cultures need to be preserved for future generations.
For time's sake, unfortunately, we won't be able to get into the question, but we do ask that you guys stay in touch with the hashtag Black Voices in social media, and we will be doing another one coming up in the very near future. So we definitely appreciate you sharing, sir. Let's go over to Cara Renee, and then we're going to go to 𝗀𝗲𝗰𝗹𝗶𝗴.
Hello, I'm Cara Renee. I'm a designer, and I just wanted to say that I just appreciate spaces like this because this is what we need. Like, we need to hear our voices, our stories, our perspective. Spaces like this, like, it's awesome because something that was said, I believe it was Afro Spirit that said it. The ability that Web3, even Web2, the ability that it gives us to own our own credentials. Like, for so long that has been taken away from us. Like, I've went to school for years getting a degree. And then when it was time to go out into the workforce, I was invalidated. I was told I didn't know what I knew because I didn't have, this amount of years of experience. Like, my ability to own my credentials was taken away from me. And the fact that Web3 gives that back to us, like, it's revolutionary. Like, I'm currently seeing my best friend go through the banking system where she's being denied a business loan, even though she's been in business selling, natural hair care products for 8 years. And she's doing really great. And she's at the point where she needs to expand. And she goes to her bank, who she's been banking with for the whole 8 years that she's been in business. And they're telling her no. And it blows my mind that I have my money in these banks. And then when it comes time for my people to have access to my money for a loan, they tell my people no, but their people can have access to my money for business loans and my people can't. So having the ability to purchase someone's artwork through Web3 to give them direct access to my money, it feels so good. Like, that's why I always share everyone's artwork, because you never know who's going to see it, and you never know who that's going to help out. Like, it's taking back our ability, taking back our power to own our credentials and to build something for ourselves. And I love that.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. That was powerful. I appreciate that. We're going to go over to Courtney, and then we will go to, I guess, Alan.
What's going on, designer? Thank you for inviting me to this space. Dark Miss Cara, Afro Spirit, Doctor, how are you doing? Thank you so much for inviting me to the space. I was in rehearsal, so I was like, oh man, I don't think I'm gonna make it to the space. But I'm so glad I tapped in because I usually don't. Well, I'm from Harlem, New York. I've been playing percussion since the age of 7, kind of toured the world doing that stuff. But I kind of tapped in, and I usually don't fit into anywhere. And it's been like that my entire life. So I'm not, so surprised about the Web3 space where I don't fit in. But this room made me feel snugged, and I'm so very happy that I actually took the time out in rehearsal to tap in because I found this conversation very interesting, enlightening, and it's a breath of fresh air to to even know that I have a space where I can belong. So also, we have to create, I always tell people to create our own blueprint, because I think it's very important not to follow anybody else's. And for the people that's kind of iffy about getting in this space, you have to lead by example, because now my mom, she even knows what an NFT is. At first she was like, well, where's the art? Can I get it? And, I showed her through sales and, even being hacked, I showed her how to, like I can get the Nano Ledger X. I educated myself on it, and she sees that I'm back on my feet. So she's just like, oh yeah. So now she really absolutely knows what an NFT is. And some of my friends as well, they ask me about the space. So I would say leading by example is the key. component to getting people in the space, but also teaching them how to keep their assets and not just onboarding, because I think that's very super important. Nobody taught me how to keep anything until I got hacked. So, you know, teaching people how to keep their assets, you know, before they're on board is very, very important. And I just want to say that, and I got to tap out.
Hey, each one teach one. That's what it's about. And we appreciate you for joining our room. We're going to go to Alan, and then we will go back to our panelists before we close it out.
Thanks a lot for the opportunity to be a part of this room. First off, I would like to express my gratitude to Dak. He shared this link into our little community we have in Ghana. I'm Ali Mamata, and I'm a Ghanaian. And I would just like to even, first of all, congratulate everyone for being here, because I believe such rooms exist for us to be able to have this valuable exchange. And just to even echo what Connie was saying, it's really important that, we get very educated, because at the end of the day, Web3 and NFTs comes a lot with a lot of possibilities and opportunity. But then if we are not educated on how to protect ourselves or know best practices on how to protect our assets, our currencies, and how to even invest and move in that particular space, we will just be all about the talk and not really be real experienced people who have benefited from all these advantages that are seriously emerging as time goes on. So, I've not been in here from the onset, but the little I just grasped on was really helpful, because I think designer Donji was talking about how difficult it is for certain people to get access to banking facilities, and it's really mind-blowing in Africa. Like when sometimes you just need to set up a dollar account, have your PayPal set up in a way that you can easily maybe get a card to easily buy ETH from Coinbase and whatnot. Those processes are not streamlined. They're very tiresome. And at the end of the day, it's just how to put it, like it just shows the state of the world in this particular moment, and we having this opportunity now to be very decentralized and be able to really do right on ourselves by ourselves is like a big opportunity for all of us. So this will be my 2 cents, and if anyone wants to interact with me, my DMs are always open. I've sent some DMs out to people, I've followed some people, and it's always love at my end. I don't talk too much. Bless you all.
We appreciate that, brother. And everyone, before we close it out, we are going to do a quick roundtable with our panelists. We ask that you do retweet the room, follow all the people on the panel, and follow each other. Let's keep this conversation going. There is definitely a hashtag. It's Black Voices in social media. If you follow that, we will definitely be able to continue that. And make sure you follow 𝗀𝗲𝗰𝗹𝗶. We have a Discord set up on that account, and we can also continue the conversation there. All right, we'll start with Professor, if you want to close us out, and then we'll go across the board.
Thank you so much. This has been amazing to hear everyone just connect and be able to build together for a little while. My main point is, let's stay in touch. Let's continue to build together. Share all of the work that you can. Let's promote each other. Let's find ways that we can open doors to get us into different rooms. But please, Designer Donji, my colleagues on the panel, my door is open, my emails, whatever I can do to help you all this coming week. Let's get it started.
Thank you, Professor. Afro Spirit?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what the doctor said. Just first of all, thanks for the opportunity, and we just keep the fire burning and continue to support each other, continue to learn and grow in the space, and continue the work that we're starting, and whatever we envision to happen is definitely going to happen as long as we stick together and we build together. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dartmouth?
Yeah, absolutely. And really appreciated this room. And what I'd like to contribute is, again, look to your left, to your right, do a follow everybody. I'm going to do my best effort to ensure I follow everyone that is following me in here. And yeah, the whole thing is showing up. We're a community that's going to end up being like at the forefront and center of things. I invite people to continue following in this journey that we're all doing. I do Afrofuturism on the blockchain weekly. I will soon be tweeting the next event, and Bash in the audience is actually going to be my next guest, who will be talking about AR. And so yeah, we continue to show up, create our groups, and very last but not least, the inclusiveness of our community. And the reason I wanted to say the inclusiveness and make this, say something special about this, is I always look in the audience to see who's out there that might need to hear something. And I see 𝗀𝗲𝗃𝗃 in there. And the reason I wanted to mention something about this is because of the future and futurism. She's a fashion, in the fashion world, design. And I consider anyone that's doing fashion at this current moment through Web3 a futurist, because you see some of the designs she does, that's futurism. That is coming from a Black woman that has some dope stuff going, and people aren't even ready to see what it is. So we support, we see each other, we make them feel included. We say, look, you might not know what you represent Afrofuturism, but I've seen your work and your art, and you are Afrofuturism. Please come be part of the community, and let's help each other grow. One of us, two of us explode. Let's come back and bring the rest of us up and continue learning. And Doctor, anything you're doing at the university, if you want to talk with me, I'll be more than happy to speak or do anything and bring our community as well. So thank you all.
So appreciate the entire panel. We appreciate everyone being a part of the conversation today. Like I say, we can continue to reach out to each other because hopefully we're following each other, DM each other, include each other in the spaces that you do. And I just want to leave you guys with this. I always try to put things into my own terms. So Afrofuturism to me, whenever we hear, unfortunately, we can or no, or we won't be able to, let's be disruptive and let's make sure that we think of new ways and ways that we can reimagine our future, our finances, our art. And, let's do more research. Let's onboard more people in our own communities and bring them into our circle. So look forward to our next space. I will make sure I send it out to everybody via flyer, via invite. And thank you. And I hope you have a very productive and safe day in your neck of the woods, as it is sunny here in sunny South Florida. Thank you guys for joining. Bye-bye.
Thank you.